Hey guys, hello and welcome back, or welcome for the first time to my podcast, The Talk Podcast. I'm your host, Aisha Vivian, and I'm starting the season on the hookup culture where I'm planning to bring about 3 to 5 episodes. So today's going to be the second episode on this topic. And I have a video, actually, I have more, but this one that I'm going to share today is about a young woman, a young lady that is sharing her experience about the hookup culture, what she learned, how she thinks it's damaging, what her experiences are, just her own thoughts about this hookup culture that's been growing quite a lot in modern times. And so in her early years, in her early teens up to her early 20s, she was engaging heavily in the hookup culture. She said herself she would go out partying, and it was a normal thing to do to just hook up with random people, to spend the night at someone's house that you didn't really know. To be a side chick was quite a normal thing because everyone was doing it, meaning all her friends, all the people she knew, they were all engaging in this culture of just hooking up and having casual sex, meaningless sex with someone without developing any intimacy, any emotions, or even trying to go and grow it into a relationship. So her experience actually, I think, wasn't positive at all, because she would say things like joining the hookup culture, even if it was presented to her and to everyone else as the most normal thing to do, it disconnected her from her own self. It disconnected her from her body. To me, that sounds like you're a bit disgusted about yourself, like you don't really enjoy being you anymore, because you look back and you start thinking, why did I have to sleep with those people? Why did I have to give my body so freely to someone who most likely didn't value you or didn't want the same thing that you wanted? She also talked about how you engage in casual sex, but you don't really understand what that person wants, where that person has had their experiences in sexually, and then you try to hook up with them, but turns out that you're just hurting and you're just putting yourself in a situation where you're not happy about it, because what someone else might like could be completely the opposite to what you would like. Another thing that she said was like this idea of being a side chick, that it's such a normal thing. To me, it's crazy, because I think there are two understandings of what it means to be a side chick. I think a lot of people understand being a side chick meaning you're dealing with a guy or a man who is already in a committed relationship, and then you're just like in between, which is a home wrecker, because if you know someone is in a relationship, of course the guy is doing something wrong as well. But why would you put yourself in that situation? That's totally wrong to me. But the real thing about being a side chick, actually, what it means is you're just being disposable to these men that you're hooking up with. It means you're just any girl. You're just that one girl on the side. You're just that girl that he can always call up to have a fling. You're just that girl he can pick up real quick just to have something going on for that night. You're just the girl he hooks up. You're the one he can exchange with other girls that he has. That's what a side chick actually is. You don't have to be in between someone's relationship that gives you the feeling of, oh, maybe I'm the better girlfriend and actually he wants me and that's why he's dealing with me. That's bullshit, I'm sorry to say. And a lot of people engage in that as well, but it's stupid. But just being a side chick itself means you're just a disposable girl to that man that you're dealing with. because he's not committed to you. So she talked about also how joining this hookup culture can be tormenting emotionally, because after some time, when you put yourself and you give your body up to someone, but you never really get this feeling, because everything is about feelings. You never really get this feeling back that you're looking for. There's always something you're looking for, but it's not going to come back in return. So I think she gives an example of how she would go to someone's house, Netflix and chill. We all know what that means nowadays. And you wake up the next morning, but they don't treat you. That person's not going to treat you the way you want it to be treated, which in my mind could be a good morning hug, a good morning kiss, just someone looking at you and saying, I just didn't want to spend the night with you. I want to spend the whole day with you. I want to wake up and have breakfast with you. How are you doing? How was your night? All those kind of things, right? But it actually turns out to them looking at you and just hoping that you start packing your things. Just start packing your things as fast as possible so you can leave, because they don't really want to be involved with you. And that's painful. The more you do this, the more you just keep hurting yourself. And I think the other thing she talks about is how women would try to do the same thing that men do. For example, men have the ability to completely, could sound extreme, but they can really detach their feelings from just having casual sex. Let me put it this way. Having casual sex to a man is completely different than it is to a woman. A woman, like it or not, is always going to have feelings involved. In that situation, after the situation, whenever you think of it, there is some feelings involved. While men, they just don't move that way. They can detach themselves and just really have what the business is, just kick it with you without growing any deep emotions, without wanting to fall in love with you. And that's due to certain hormones that we all produce, but women produce it more in a higher level, and we share it while having sex with someone. That hormone is being shared, it's being produced more, and that's what creates this being attached to someone and creating bond to someone. I think it's serotonin. I'm going to re-look it up, but I'm quite sure it's the hormone serotonin that creates this bonding between people, especially women. And men, they just don't have it that much. There could be multiple reasons why women get more attached to feelings or just create feelings quicker than men, but understand, whatever it is, we are different. We are built different, and I know some people don't want to hear this. Yes, we are the same in terms of values as a human being. You have the same right to live. He has the same right to live. You are valued as a human being and all those kind of things. You both could be even cognitively on the same scale. But there are just certain things in life that we are completely different. And if people would understand it, you would actually see the beauty in it, because we complement each other with our differences. But life has changed. Like, people don't want to hear that. No one wants to hear a woman is different to a man, because we want to believe we are the same and we are as strong as a man and we can have the same amount of different partners as a man does without getting hurt, and so on and so forth. But I think her video is quite interesting, so I would really recommend you guys to listen to it. I took it out and shorten it up a bit, but I'm going to how do you say, put her link down below or tag her so you could go to the original video and listen to it. This goes for YouTube, so I'm not sure I'm going to be able to do this on Spotify and Anchor, but I'm definitely going to talk on the topic on those two platforms as well. So, moving on about the video that I was talking about, the young woman expresses also that there is a small minority of women who believe that they can be highly promiscuous, they can join the hookup culture without having any negative experience in terms of having their feelings hurt or their heart broken. It is quite a minority, I believe, but what I think why these women tell themselves that they can do it has a lot to do with the shame and the guilt of not being able to cope with that. So you just keep lying to yourself that this is you, you don't care, you can handle it. There's an effect about people who've had bad choices and cannot be accountable about those bad choices. Instead of being judged by other people, they just take it over, they embody it completely. So if I can kind of laugh about it, if I can, how do I say, if I can tell myself I don't care about it, no one else is going to be able to judge me about it. I think that's the effect. You see people, young women who tap into being very promiscuous, they just keep moving on that way because maybe they don't know how to get out of it anymore, or they've been known for it and now it's just like, yeah, this is the new me, this is who I'm gonna be forever. I just rather keep this persona so no one is going to be able to hurt me with this because I'm the one who's going to use this against myself first. Just like the way you would see in some movies where there's this obese fat person, and instead of them letting someone else make jokes about them, they don't want to be accountable and say, oh, I could lose weight, I'm not happy in my body state right now. But before someone else can call me fat, I just call myself Fat Amy first. So before they start making jokes about me, I'm just going to make a joke about myself, just as a way to protect myself from either the reality or the hurt that can come towards me. The other thing that I think it's quite interesting what she says in the video, I've spoken on it already in the first half of this, saying that it was a normal thing to her because everyone was doing it, all her friends are doing it, but also that other women, and I think older women, people we would believe they know better, they would advise us better, instead of telling the truth, they would sell you this idea of, oh, why don't you just join into the hookup culture? It's empowering. It makes you feel better. It's so much fun. You can learn so much about yourself. What I don't really get is, what are you going to learn by giving out your body freely to people who are not going to value, respect you, or treat you right? What are you learning from that? You're just stuck in a cycle of keep hurting yourself. And I'm a woman myself, but I can tell you guys that we women, we give each other not always the best advices. It's kind of like misery needs company. So why should I open your eyes to the truth when I can just draw you into my misery and we can stay together in this miserable life, where the other person is not being forced to be accountable about their choices, because now everyone is doing it. Now we're all doing it together. We're in this boat together. That's why you also see women who are past the age of actually being around out there in the clubs, you would still see them around because that's the only thing they know. And they would meet younger women and sell them the idea of, yeah, this is cool, this is fun, look at me, I'm 30, I'm 33, I'm 35, and I'm still out here getting with the boys and partying and getting drunk and having random sex, like, yes, girl, and all of that stuff. I'm sorry, I need to laugh about this a bit. Um, it's it's delusional. It's a bad idea, but we tell each other's bad ideas. So, guys, I think I'm gonna cut it off now, because there's more to come about this topic. I'm learning how to grow into sharing all these ideas. It's really not easy. I'm not really trying to hurt anyone or bash anyone. I think, yes, you can do whatever you want with your life, but I think it's important to really understand the consequences in what situation you are putting yourself in. I wouldn't recommend anyone to join into the hookup culture. And especially if you've been doing this for years, time is just running past you. And it could happen that you just wake up one day and you start missing what actually is important. You start questioning yourself. You missed out on so much, on so much good experience. You missed out on possibly having a real committed relationship. You missed out on just something real in life, all due to telling yourself you're having fun and you want to feel empowered. But however, to each his own, I'm really just trying to share awareness. And I think with bringing up some of those videos where people talk about what they've been through should possibly help open the eyes and the minds of people to understand that this is not the real deal. This topic is not an easy one because it's been around for such a long time. And even as the girl said, it was just normal to her, right? So how can you start questioning something that seems to be so normal and everyone is doing? But we should question everything that we do. And the other thing I want to say is people need to be aware of who they surround themselves with. If you're surrounded by people who only do things like this, you easily could tap into it and find yourself just giving your body out, losing value, hurting yourself, and all of that. So I hope you guys are going to enjoy this topic, even though it's quite a tough one. And I'm working on starting a next episode about this. I'm really trying to go on 5 episodes. I still have a lot of example videos to share. So guys, I wish you a great time. And once again, welcome to the Talk Podcast.
Younger, I would tell myself that hookup culture was not affecting me and that it was normal and I wanted to be doing these things. But deep down, when I got to the root of it, I was lying to myself. Early 20s, I used to go out to clubs and go out with my friends and drink and have a good time. And in that stage, I casually hooked up. It was really normal to be a side chick or have a side bae or like a weekend bae where you would meet up and have a Netflix and chill cuddle, or if you're going out, you know that's gonna be your person that you're gonna go home with. And in my 20s, I was really stuck in a cycle of entertaining and talking to men who gave me the bare minimum. I would light up so heavily when he sent me a text, or he replied back to my Snapchat story, or when he liked my photo, the photo that I only posted so that I could get his attention. And unfortunately, a part of trying to get a guy to commit or trying to see where things go, I indulged in hookup culture. I would hook up with guys way too soon. I would hook up with guys who still were not being clear with what they even wanted with me. And it got to a point where I was so depressed and so unhappy because hookup culture was also just so normal and all my friends were doing it, like everyone is doing it, it was really hard for me to be able to self-reflect and look back and be like, okay, hooking up with this guy who didn't want to even commit to me and didn't care about me didn't actually make me feel good. Now, of course, I was taught as a young girl to not just give your body up to men who don't care about you or sleep around, sensitized to the repercussions that hookup culture created. And I started to realize that hookup culture was really toxic for me and not helpful when I would wake up the next day from a guy, let's say that I went over and Netflix and chilled, or went out to the club and he was my weekend bae that I would always like go home with. When I woke up in the morning and I didn't get a certain text from him or the amount of attention that I really wanted or that next progression, it started to make me realize that indulging in hookup culture isn't getting me anywhere. Hooking up with him didn't help me get anything. I didn't actually gain anything from it. Hookup culture teaches you in society that it's for your liberation as well as a woman. You're gonna feel so much better about yourself. You should have the ability to sleep with whoever you want or hook up with whoever you want. I think that there's a lot of downfalls to participating in hookup culture that a lot of us women are not being aware of, or the conversations are not being had. Some women in society, they normalize hookup culture to their friends. Hookup culture does affect us, and I want to talk about some of the ways that hookup culture is toxic specifically to women. I want to preface this with saying there is always going to be exceptions to the rules. There were some girls who commented on my hookup culture TikTok being like, hooking up can be fun, you can learn a lot, you can get a lot of experience, this, that, and the third. And what I'm gonna say is, most likely this video is not gonna be for you if you are a woman who truly knows that hookup culture does not affect you. Although I will say I've seen it in so many of my friends, and I've seen it in myself before. When I was younger, I would tell myself that hookup culture was not affecting me and that it was normal and I wanted to be doing these things. But deep down, when I got to the root of it, I was lying to myself. Video if you want, but just know that I am aware that there are certain women who can handle this type of lifestyle, but I do think it's way less than we like to tell ourselves or admit to. I truly think that giving up your body to a man who is not going to commit to you just to try to see where things go is adding to another layer of pain that you are going to feel when this man inevitably does not commit to you. And I think a lot of us women, sometimes we give up too much too soon, thinking that it's going to help us connect. It's from someone who is no longer even in your life. Another reason why I think hookup culture can be very toxic to women is that it actually disconnects us from our own bodies. I think there's this lie that us women will tell ourselves this, or hookup culture in general will say, oh, you gain so much experience by hooking up with different people, and same thing with like dating, right? You date a lot of people, you get to know what you like and you don't like and this, that. But I think that there's definitely a fine line, and when it comes to getting intimate with someone, especially someone who is in the category of just being casual, because he is not committed to building a deeper romance, intimate connection with you, you might be hooking up with someone who just wants to have a good, fun time. Hookup culture is toxic to women. I might trigger some people here, but it's that you are a woman and you do get emotionally attached to men. And I personally believe that we tend to emotionally attach a lot more than men will. I'm not going to make a blanket statement here and say that no men ever attach to a woman, and I'm also not going to say that there are not that minority of women who can hook up with a man and have no emotional attachment. But if you're watching this video and you are like me, there's definitely some emotional attachment there. And a good question to ask yourself to know if you're emotionally attached to a man who you say you're just casually hooking up with is if he leaves you unread, if he goes and talks to another girl at the club that night when you're really wanting him to talk to you, or if you stay the night and the next morning he's not wanting to bring you out for breakfast and he's kind of like waiting for you to go ASAP, then most likely your emotions are involved. Most likely you have some attachment to the outcome of being with this guy. And that can be very detrimental when you have given up your body to this man. I hear this from men all the time. A lot of them can emotionally completely detach, or we see the guy that we really like going out and hooking out with somebody else, we tell ourselves, okay, you know what, I'm just gonna act like him and I'm gonna do the same thing. But it's important to acknowledge that you might be different than him. He might be able to go physically hook up with someone, but emotionally completely detach and not care about this person. But can you do the same thing? And again, ask yourself those questions. If you try and do the same thing, but the next day you are upset when you don't get a text back from the guy that you hooked up with last night, then you are different. You have your emotions involved, and that's okay. But it means you might have to go about things a lot differently. These are some things that I started to do once I realized that hookup culture wasn't really helping me and it wasn't making me feel good about myself. I wasn't getting any more intimate with knowing my own body and just loving on myself. So when we find ourselves in hookup culture, usually we're not really clear on what we're wanting. We just kind of fall into the cycle of casually hooking up with people. So get clear on what you're looking for right now in your life. Are you been hooking up, or you know that it might come? It's always good to get really clear with the man that you're talking to. I used to get into situationships all of the time.